Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Data Trends. Delighted to say we're joined by Sunny Sharma today. Sunny and I have been speaking for a while now, and I know he's got some really interesting insight around the data world right now. Sunny has a strong consultancy background, Fujitsu, and he's also worked CTO Highways England, and more recently now with Datalytyx as a senior data architect. So really interested to hear your insights, Sunny, today around some hot topics, which we're going to discuss. But for the benefit of our audience, it'd be good if you could perhaps introduce yourself.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everyone. My name is Sunny Sharma. Yep, as Ryan says, I work for a company called Mphasis Datalytyx in the UK, based out of Camberley. We specialise in Snowflake and Talend. We're especially focused at the moment on data ops, which is kind of taking DevOps approach to data engineering and data analytics. We're working at the moment, our whole ethos is around providing agile analytics and providing the people, the processes and the tools all around that, so that you can really deliver real value to your businesses.
Yeah. Okay. And I know I touched on your background there briefly, but again, for the benefit of the listeners there, so it'll be good to hear from you a bit more about your career and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, right, yeah. So I'm probably in the older category. So I'll start. I started off as an engineer at a company called Nippon Express, which is a freight forwarder. Had a good couple of years there where I was working on an AS400 mid-range system, and sort of just went through life and joined a company called Unisys, American mainframe company. Spent good 8 years there where I developed a lot of my consultancy skills, professional services skills. Worked a lot on early deployments of Windows NT4, which gives my age away, and 2000 and so on and so forth. Working for a lot of blue chip clients like Vodafone, Lloyds TSB, Halifax Building Society at the time. So some big companies there. And then I joined Fujitsu in around 2005. Again, a lot of public sector exposure there, working with some big government departments and working, in all areas of infrastructure. And it's probably around that time when things were changing, like everything changes in IT. That's probably the only thing every IT guy ever sort of agrees on, is that change is the only constant. But it came across as the on-premise versus cloud debate. So a lot of those discussions we were having that around that time.
Yeah.
I've also worked for myself, running my own company, but now I'm working for Datalytyx, or Mphasis Datalytyx, and I'm working with a bigger team now. So it's really nice to be part of this sort of the Datalytyx family.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. So the Data Trends podcast series is all about data trends. So I think from my side, what I'm really interested in talking to you about, and I know we've had offline conversations about this stuff over recent weeks, but it would be good to talk to you about what sort of trends are you seeing in the market right now, and why?
Yeah, just seeing a real acceleration for analytics, whether you call that agile analytics, whether you call that data ops, DevOps, or just plain old agile. I'm seeing a lot of like, it's almost like insight to business value. How can we speed that up as an industry? And what approaches can we take from software world where they've kind of solved a lot of these things? In the old days, if you go back to when I was at university, I did a lot of engineering. I did an engineering degree. Everything was waterfall. Everything was planned out in a project plan, in a Gantt chart, and you kind of had to do it that way because that was the only really real way, especially in manufacturing. And then you come across things like lean and agile and software. Software is different because you can change it really, really quickly, but then you have other kind of challenges and constraints around, how do you collaborate together? But what I'm seeing is that, especially with like our sort of true data ops approach methodology that we're following, is that we're seeing that those things that have been solved already are now being applied to this kind of, where we're still kind of hanging on to waterfall, kind of like someone comes up with I've got this dashboard idea, I need this dashboard that tells me this, and you kind of got to go all the way through, and you have a whole range of people, from business analysts to data engineers, maybe even to data scientists doing some AI ML work, and someone's got to sort of piece all of that together. So what the trend I'm seeing is that we almost need this kind of phrase like purple people who are really good at everything. They don't really exist. So they're like unicorns, because you can't be good at everything. I think the trend is that you have to work as an effective team. You have to have the right people around you. You definitely need the right process, and definitely need the right tool sets. So that's where Datalytyx comes in, where we try and help companies. Maybe like they look at themselves in the mirror and they say, right, what's our sort of Gartner data maturity level? Where do we think we are on that model? Are we 1 or are we 5? 5 being absolutely brilliant. And it might be that some companies that have data completely in every kind of silo, spreadsheets. They might now also have cloud silos, but they're struggling because what is the truth? So this is where I find that our work with Snowflake comes in, because you need an analytical data warehouse to try and store that. You need a cloud data platform to help you with that problem. And then the thing is, because there's so many tools and software products out there, and everyone's competing for your attention and your time, which ones do you choose to use? And you do need to invest your time in there as well. So like Snowflake is so great. It's so easy to use. I mean, someone could probably go, oh, I've never heard of Snowflake. And by the time I finish this sentence, they've actually spun up an instance on a trial, Yeah. And that agility from the cloud service providers, I probably sound like a Snowflake salesman because I love it so much. And I've invested all my time, dedicated my career to it now. But I just think their architecture is amazing, absolutely brilliant. And the fact that they can start off on AWS and then move to Azure and onto Google Cloud Platform, and you've pretty much got the same thing running over those 3 cloud service providers. I still find it fascinating. So I think the trend is, unfortunately, change is the only constant, and it's just, I think the business demands are just going to speed up even more. So this agile analytics and sort of data pipelines and data ops kind of way of working is going to be more and more brought to the forefront.
Interesting. So on a previous podcast, we were talking through the whole data strategy versus technology, and there was some insight provided around how it is just as important to understand what the overall objective is, just as much as delivering the technology solution, to achieve that. But is that what you're seeing as well? Are you speaking to clients about their, not only their technology, but also their whole data strategy as a whole piece?
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a lot of like competition and cooperation happening. So although I'm obviously very invested in Snowflake, there's also data scientists out there that want to use Python, Jupyter notebooks, and they want to use Databricks. So there's also that kind of, well, what platform do you do this kind of workload on, and what platform do you do this kind of workload on? So when we're seeing that one platform can't really do everything, or it can try and do everything, but there's some kind of like, take the best pieces of that platform and really maximize that part. So we're seeing things like the Databricks connector to Snowflake. We're seeing Kafka connected to Snowflake getting more and more traction and use. But that brings its own challenges as well, because again, with data, some people find it easier to work in like the Databricks world, and some people find it easier to work in the SQL Snowflake world. So I'm seeing some kind of friction and challenges there, because these computes, because they're in the cloud, although your constraints are different from on-premise, where you are constrained by your physical kind of data center, physical RAM, CPU, storage, etc. In the cloud, you're like in the world of plenty. So the probably the only thing that you control or you've got hold of are the purse strings and the costs. So we're seeing some kind of like changes in mentality, because it's almost like, no, we don't want a large warehouse, virtual warehouse. We only want an extra small one. But some of those constraints, because it says it's small doesn't mean it's cheaper. Sometimes running the larger one for a shorter amount of time is cheaper than running a small one for a longer period of time. So and you're not getting the value out of the cloud platform by kind of taking the wrong strategy or the wrong approach. So I mean, that's a very Snowflake answer, but
I'm a big Snowflake fan myself, and that's based off the hiring I'm doing right now within the data world. So big demand, and I've mentioned this a number of times. So, but one of the number one skill set that I'm being asked to find now is experience within Snowflake itself, whether that's from a hands-on development point of view or architectural. But there's a big shift for wanting Snowflake experienced professionals, both consultancy side, but also in-house as well. So there's no getting away from it. They're doing something right. That's for sure.
I mean, absolutely fantastic service that they provide. And one of the things I've mentioned before is like you could drink from the Microsoft Azure kind of bucket, and you could just spend all your life inside of Azure and do Synapse Analytics and all that stuff. Or you could drink the GCP Kool-Aid or the AWS Kool-Aid. This, where Snowflake is unique and different, is that they're working across all three providers. So that global cloud data platform that they've got, it's immense. And some people look at me and go, Sunny, why are you so excited about this? Why? And I can only say, I feel that one of the sort of killer features that it's got is, how do you share, once you've got your data all neatly organized in this one place, and whether it's Snowflake or something else, but how do you share that data? And the killer feature they have is Snowflake Shares and the data marketplace, and listings, private listings that they have as well. So what's unique is, and maybe others can do it now, but what was unique at least a couple of years ago was the data doesn't move. All you do is you allow Ryan to access this data, and you come in and you get that read-only share, and you've got access to all the data, which means that you can then use that in your work. So I think that's quite unique. I don't think maybe some of the others are catching up now. I have heard of AWS Redshift Spectrum doing some bits and pieces, but it's not as simple as what it is in Snowflake. Even Synapse Analytics, you've got to stop and start, data warehouses. Inside of Snowflake, it's just absolutely smooth. And I think it's this kind of like standing on the shoulders of giants. If you can then leverage what they've done and understand what they've done, then you can really make your business a success.
Interesting. I think a lot of people within the data world, would share your same thoughts around Snowflake right now. But are there any other data sort of software vendors, BI software vendors, analytics software vendors? Any sort of vendors that you think that we should be looking out for, perhaps over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I think there's obviously the big industry giants. You can't ignore what they're doing, and they're always moving forwards, and they're employing some really clever people. So you've got to look at the industry giants. You've got to look at AWS. You've got to look at Microsoft. You've got to look at GCP, the Google crowd. But also they've got these big guys doing what they're doing. But then there's more nimble, smaller software houses that are doing very niche things and very focused. And it's that word of focus. I think that's important, because one of the things I'd like to give a shout out to are the DBT crew from Fishtown Analytics. DBT is one of those things which is, people have never heard of it or go, what does it stand for? And it does stand for a data build tool, but I like to think of it as a database building tool, or data warehouse building tool. And a lot of the work that I'm doing in data engineering, we just can't live without DBT. And then people look at me and go, what does it do? And it's like you've got one driving seat, when you go into the Snowflake console, the worksheet, and you can do what you need to do there, and it's functional, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And Snowflake themselves are always improving it on the analytics side, etc., the apps and the graphs and stuff that they're doing in there. But it's kind of like this, the world we're moving to, which is like the declarative programming model versus the imperative programming model. And it's kind of like, declarative is like, I say to my neighbor who's a car mechanic, I say, Chris, can you fix my car? Sure. Give him the keys. 2 days later, your car's fixed. It costs this much. What was wrong with it? Blah 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 blah. He tells you, and then yeah, fine. That's kind of like the declarative world. I don't really care how he fixed it, whether he changed the oil filter or the timing belt was wrong or something like that. That's kind of like his area. Versus that imperative approach, which is kind of like, I'm trying to control you. Ryan, walk 10 paces forward. Turn right, go to the machine, press coffee machine. Coffee, black coffee, and you get me and bring me back that coffee. It's kind of like a set of instructions that you get there. And I think the world is kind of moving, like the programming world is moving more towards the declarative. This is what I need Snowflake to look like for me. And I don't know how you do it, but this is the kind of like the outcome I want, and off it goes. So that, I think that declarative way of working is gonna be an industry trend. It's already happening. So it's not like I've just thought of it. We're already doing it as part of our I call them our sister company, DataOps.live. Guy Adams, the CTO there, he's definitely working all on this, and he's actually looking at a lot of the because inside of Snowflake there's hundreds of objects, and every one of those needs to be loved and cared for. And so there's this whole life cycle that you need to do to take that from the cradle and then take it all the way to the grave, and everything in between. And how do you manage that properly, and how do you govern that properly? So although we talk about agile analytics, that's what everyone wants, and we want it really fast, and we want it in a DevOps kind of approach. That governance, that feeling of safety and security, and being able to prove to, say, external auditors, this is how it works. This is how our data engineers never get access to the the personally identifiable information, the PII or the GDPR or whatever industry you're in. How do you make sure that Sunny's personal details aren't shared with the rest of the world? So that, I think when we talk about agile analytics, it's easy. Sometimes it's easy to forget that governance side, because end of the day, getting a fine from the regulator will make you really focus on it.
Yeah, take stock. Yeah, for sure. Good shout out to the DBT there, by the way. No, I mean, again, I'm absolutely seeing that as a trend. Also, Snowflake, stroke DBT together as a tech stack experience. Yeah, that seems to be quite a highly sought after skill set right now. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And the other thing with that is, I mean, DBT is built in Python. So if you've got any younger listeners out there and thinking, well, which language shall I choose? If they haven't already, Python is the way forwards. I'm even hearing rumors that Excel is going to change VBA to Python, so that
Wow.
just becomes everywhere. I mean, it's just everywhere. Python is everywhere. It's amazing. I'm still a VB script man myself in the old days. I think once you know one scripting language, you can quite easily jump onto Python or something else.
Yeah, and so then that just linked quite nicely actually to something that I really like to talk about with for the benefit of the audience here, and that is the people that are looking to get into the data space. Perhaps someone that's starting out their career right now, and speaking to someone like yourself and given the benefit of your experience, what would you be telling people right now in terms of what should they be doing, or what advice would you give to them if they're starting out their career today?
Yeah, just be some advice would be, be inquisitive. That inquisitiveness, will help you explore. So if you've got a new area, let's say you've never used Python before, you never heard of it, go and soak yourself in Python. Go and do a boot camp or watch YouTube videos. Just really try it and get practical hands-on, experience. One stage I didn't know anything about Python. I was like, well, why do I need to learn another language? I've got all these others that I've learned. And sometimes you throw yourself into a little project, just to amuse yourself, so I did a web scraping project on Python myself, just to understand how it worked. And then you come across all the different, open source packages that are out there, and then you come across something like DBT, which then actually changes your life and your approach. And then it's like, wow, all these things that are out there. And so you just have to have a really open mind, be inquisitive, be an explorer, and soak yourself in it, and just try your very best.
Yeah.
And don't be too hard on yourself as well, because everyone starts with one step, and just take that one step and keep building your knowledge. Yeah, and I would say, stick to probably an editor. I would say for the younger people out there might be so much choice. But I'm a big fan of Microsoft's VS Code. Absolutely free, runs on Mac, runs on Windows, and just keep trying and keep persevering, and you will get better and better at it. So the other sort of last thing I'd say is, I think a lot of people, and I'm obviously from the consultancy world, I'm a bit worried about COVID and how everyone's been indoors on their own and just behind a screen, So I'm an extrovert, so I like to see extroverts. But I would say to people, obviously, put the tools to the side, put the processes to the side, and really focus on people, and really be kind to other people as well, because everyone's going through their own little challenges and battles with COVID and whatever else. So just be kind and be humble, really, as well.
Well said.
So when you're actually at the top, you just be humble and go,
Well said.
I learned from others.
Yeah.
And try and give back as well if you can.
No, I think that's a really, really interesting, important point you made there. Yeah. I think but to aside from that, I suppose you talked about the technical skill set that you would talk to the younger generation getting into the data world right now, but also perhaps the soft skill set that these that often is required, and not only for consultancies but also working directly for clients as well, because data, BI, analytics plays a huge part in decision making within organizations right now. So to change in terms of culture shift and making sure that the wider business understands the use and the power of using good data, I think having those soft skills is really just as important as having the technical know-how. I think that's a piece of advice that I would probably give, as a recruiter. I think that's something that's highly sought after right now. just as much.
Yeah. I mean, you just put a thought in my mind there. If you don't mind, if I just jump off slightly. So when I was talking to a customer recently, the DBA who'd been there 20 odd years and working in an on-premise environment with a data center, and working with his dev system, his UAT QA kind of system, his production system, and then his DR system as well. He basically asked, in not so many words, was, do I still like DBAs? And it threw me back a little bit, because it was like, oh, why does he think I don't like DBAs? I absolutely love DBAs. And I think the question he was really asking was, we're going to move from an on-premise, I can say, it's an IBM Netezza systems, which was really good at the time. I'm an IBM fan as well. I grew up on AS400, so it's rock solid stuff, still ticking along. But how do you move that to the cloud and to Snowflake? And I think his question, what he was asking was, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in this new world? I'm kind of king over here. I know how all this stuff works here. What do I need to do to go in the cloud world? And again, we kind of we've learned stuff for over 20 years about how to slow down decision making, actually, because a bad decision has massive consequences. Like, your company could fold if you make a bad decision. So a lot of these systems are air gapped on premise. I've done the same as CTO, right? I've gone, right now I need 4 of these systems, are identical, but they're air gapped, and the people will work on that system, and then they'll get a sign off to go to the next system, and the next system, and the next system, which works in an on-premise world. But don't take that thinking and put it onto the cloud, and don't take that thinking and put it onto Snowflake. We've seen customers with hundreds of Snowflake tenants and accounts, right? Because that's the thinking. And they don't realize that actually there's all these features like time travel, clones, or zero copy clones, and loads of other stuff that Snowflake keep inventing for us. So what do? How do you move from there to there? From a world of kind of scarcity to a world of plenty. So that's where the architecture is super important. Whether you get Datalytyx in or another team in, or you do it yourself, that architecture, and really thinking it through, what you're going to do. Because yes, you can spin it up in a split second, but what you're going to do with it. And if all you've ever done is spin up a Snowflake trial and then gone, it's useless, I don't know what to do with it, or it's just SQL, I've got a SQL server here, it's been running for 20 years, why do I need to learn this? Then you're kind of missing a trick.
Yeah.
You're not understanding that this, like the cloud data platform, and how powerful it is, and then what you can do with it. It's really, it's your imagination, your creativity, what you can do with it, and your credits. That's probably the main thing. You'll run out of money before you stress Snowflake or any other cloud service provider at all.
Yeah, all good points. And and again, it really is. I enjoy talking to you, because you really have got some interesting insight to what's going on in the market right now. One of the things I've been thinking about is from a client's perspective, and you've sat the other side of the fence as a CTO, and also now consultancy. What might be interesting to the audience is, in your view, what would make a good consultant, a data consultant, and why? What do you think stands certain people out, over others, I guess?
Yes, good question. And there's probably a whole list of attributes that you could have, but I think communication is number one. Being able to communicate as a consultant, as someone that travels and then meets customers, even whether it's face to face or over Teams or over any other remote tool, you've got to be able to try and build that rapport really quickly, really understand what their challenges are, So communication is number one, but then if you can't back that up with your technical ability, then there's just a good talker in the room. You you need a good doer as well. So how do you, and I think that's where you're finding these challenges, right, Ryan? Because how do you find people who can talk and walk the walk? So I think that's, again, for people starting their careers, or maybe pivoting, changing careers, that's really super important.
Yeah.
And then, like we've seen, like some companies where there's absolute heroes that are keeping the company going, making sure that the data from the source system goes all the way through the warehouses and out into dashboard reports or Power BI reports, whatever it might be. There's people doing heroism to get that working and making it sure it's fixed, but then unrecognized. So that the other side of the people part is recognition, where people are doing a great job and holding things together, that should be brought out as well. So probably I've given you 3 things there, which, the third one is probably management or people management.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think, and you touched on the challenge, so I do hire for a number of consultancies in the UK right now. And there is a certain type of individual that they are looking for. And it does go back to their softer skill set alongside the technical know-how and the ability to prove and back up what they say, they can do for their clients. So it's a challenge, but, there's some great consultants out there. I'm always interested in understanding the difference in terms of hiring within a data consultancy and perhaps for an in-house data and BI team. That's the train of thought I was going down. And I think there's definitely 2 different skill sets there. Sure, at times. Yeah, it can be. That wraps the conversation up. So thank you very much for joining.
No worries. Thank you, Ryan.
It's honestly a pleasure chatting to you again. And if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
So my email address is sunny.sharma@datalytyx.com. So we were recently bought out in November by a company called Mphasis. So I just feel that we're standing on Mphasis as an Indian giant, standing on their shoulders. And although we're a very focused data consultancy, we've got the backing of a huge company.
Yeah, exciting times there, for sure. Absolutely, there is. So if anyone wants to get in touch with Sunny or myself, then feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, and I'm sure we'll be happy to help. But for now, see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.